My name is Angelica Ramos. I'm 38 years old, a nurse at a government hospital in Quezon City, Manila. If you're watching this, it's probably because you've heard something. And yes, it's true, I died. Not metaphorically, not emotionally. Medically, I was dead for 17 minutes. And what I saw in that time changed everything. I'm not here to convince you, I'm not here to be famous. I'm sharing this because
Tell them, Angelica, what I've shown you wasn't just for you.
3 different people asked me this week. Ade Angelica, what happened to you? They say I walk differently now, speak differently, even breathe differently. My coworkers are puzzled. My friends ask if I joined some kind of a spiritual retreat. Even my neighbor Lola Mila said I seem more alive than ever. But the truth is, this didn't start in a peaceful church or a healing camp. It began with hunger. Literal painful hunger. I wasn't eating. For 6 whole days I fasted. No food, only water. You might think, ay nako, that's dangerous. It was, but something inside me knew God was asking me to do it. Not out of tradition, not for weight loss, but because He wanted my full attention. That week, I had been praying desperately for my younger brother Joseph. He's 27 and has been battling deep depression and gaming addiction for years. He barely talks. He barely sleeps. I've seen the light slowly vanish from his eyes. And no medication, no therapy, no family talk seemed to reach him anymore. So I prayed and fasted and cried. I remember it was a Wednesday morning. Around 5:45 a.m., I was driving to my mother's house to check on Joseph. The city was still quiet, dark. Only the occasional jeepney passed by. I had soft worship music playing. My hands were trembling slightly. Day 6 of fasting. My body felt weak, but my spirit felt sharper than ever. I was whispering a prayer when bang, screeching metal, glass, pain, then nothing. A drunk driver ran a red light at 80 kilometers per hour. He hit the driver's side, directly where I sat. They say my heart stopped, no pulse, no breath. For 17 minutes and 12 seconds, I was clinically dead. But that's not the part that changed me. What changed me was where I went when my body stopped breathing. Because in that place, in that realm beyond time, I didn't feel fear or pain or regret. I felt peace, real peace, the kind that makes you cry and smile at the same time. And then I saw it, the light, the tunnel, the feeling of being drawn upward, not by force, but by love. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't alone. Someone was waiting for me, and He knew my name. I don't know how long I was rising, seconds, hours. Time felt different. Not slower, not faster, just weightless. The deeper I went into the light, the more I forgot the pain, the noise of the world, the fear I had lived with for so many years. Everything I carried, worries about Joseph, my failures as a sister, guilt from the past, they all began to fall away like ashes in the wind. And then it stopped. I was no longer rising. I was standing somehow on what felt like solid light. Under my feet, a surface that shimmered like walking on liquid glass filled with stars. Above me, a sky that sang. It didn't make sense, but it felt right. Then everything around me seemed to hold its breath. And in front of me, He appeared. Jesus. Not like the images in paintings. Not like the statues in churches. He wasn't just glowing. He was glory itself. Light didn't just shine from Him. It came through Him. From His being. From His heart. His eyes, they weren't brown or blue. They were deeper than color. Like oceans of eternity. And they looked straight into me. Not just at me, through me. Every memory, every sin, every question. He saw it all, and He loved me. I couldn't take it. I fell to my knees. Not out of fear, but because there was no pride left in me. Not a single bit. I was undone, and then I heard His voice.
Angelica?
That one word melted everything inside me. It wasn't just my name. It was recognition. I wasn't a face in the crowd. I wasn't forgotten. I was known. I was seen.
You are safe. You are home. But this is not the end. There is something I must show you.
I wept because his voice didn't come from sound. It came from life. It filled me like breath, but deeper. I tried to speak, to say thank you, to say anything, but I had no words, only tears, only awe. And yet, he understood, he smiled. That smile was enough to heal the world.
So many of my children, they sing to me, they pray to me, but they do not believe that I long to speak to them too.
He stepped closer. His presence didn't just radiate light, it radiated truth. It stripped away all the lies I had believed about myself, that I wasn't good enough, that I'd failed my brother, that my prayers didn't matter. They all vanished, burned up in his gaze.
I've seen your pain. I've heard your cries. Every moment you thought you were alone, I was there.
He reached out his hand. I hesitated, not because I feared him, but because I didn't feel worthy.
There is no shame in my presence, Angelica, only healing.
I touched his hand. And when I did, it was like lightning and love collided inside me. Every dark corner was filled with warmth. Every unanswered question was stilled. I was whole. And still, he wasn't done.
What I am about to show you is not only for you, it is for your people, your nation, your generation, my church.
He pointed. The space around us began to shift. The ground became transparent. I saw the earth, cities glowing in the night, people walking, sleeping, crying, praying. Then out of nowhere, threads of golden light began rising from homes, churches, mountain huts, even jail cells. Each thread was alive, moving, vibrating with power. They stretched from people below up into this realm. I gasped. What are those? I asked. Jesus looked at me.
Those are fasts.
And just like that, I knew he was about to show me something that would change everything. I couldn't take my eyes off them. Those golden threads, rising from the earth like rivers of light, flowing upward, shimmering in the air that wasn't air. They were alive. Each one vibrated gently like it carried the heartbeat of someone down below. I saw some that flickered softly, barely lit, and others that burned like beams of fire, piercing through spiritual darkness. What are they? I whispered. My voice barely came out, but Jesus heard it.
These are fasts. Each thread you see is someone on earth, giving up food, comfort, or pleasure, to seek me with a pure heart.
I stepped closer. Each thread was different. Some were as thin as a strand of hair. Others were thick like a rope made of lightning.
When my children fast, something shifts. They may not see it with earthly eyes, but in the spirit realm, their sacrifice creates a direct channel between heaven and earth.
I felt a gasp form in my chest. So many of these people, they didn't even know what they were touching. Some were teenagers in their rooms, others mothers kneeling beside sleeping babies, elders with shaking hands but fierce hearts.
Most of them think they're simply being disciplined, but they don't realize they are waging war.
Then, he pointed, a new thread began to rise. It came from a small wooden house near the mountains. A woman was on her knees holding an old Bible. I saw tears falling from her face onto the pages.
That's Clarissa from Baguio. She's on day 5 of her fast, crying out for her son who joined a gang. She thinks no one hears her, but I do. And her fast has built a wall of fire around that boy.
The thread connected her prayer to heaven like a lightning rod. It pulsed stronger with every tear she shed, every meal she skipped, every moment she chose me over comfort. I turned back to Jesus, stunned. How can fasting do all this?
Because it is a posture of the heart. When done in truth, fasting breaks through lies, pride, and distraction. It aligns the spirit with heaven's frequency.
I watched another thread burst forth like a flare. A man bald with tattoos was praying in a jail cell. No music, no pastor, just him on his knees, whispering, God, I'm tired.
That is Ramon. Today is his first fast. No one ever taught him how, but he gave up his only meal to seek me. That is enough.
Each thread became a story, each story a weapon, an act of war in the unseen realm. Then I saw something darker, a region in shadow, heavy, thick like polluted smoke. People were trying to pray, but their voices felt swallowed by the fog. The darkness laughed, mocked. It was demonic. But then I saw it. A group of believers, maybe 10 or 12, kneeling in a circle. No microphones, no stage, just raw faith. They were fasting together, and their golden threads began to twist and bind together, forming what looked like a braided cable of divine fire. Suddenly, boom, the fog ripped open. Demons scattered. Over that city, light broke through. The atmosphere shifted.
That is corporate fasting. When my body unites in sacrifice, the heavens respond in power.
Tears filled my eyes. All this time, we thought fasting was about us. Our personal breakthroughs, our discipline, our holiness. But it wasn't. It was about Him, about clearing space for His will, His power, His presence.
When you fast with pride, it is noise. When you fast with love, it is music to heaven. And when you fast in secret, the Father rewards openly.
I turned to Him trembling. What about me, I asked. My 6 days of fasting before I died. Did it mean anything? Jesus smiled. He turned His hand. A thread emerged near us, glowing softly. It was mine.
This is your thread, Angelica. It may have started weak, but with every passing day, it grew stronger. Your prayers for Joseph, your tears at midnight, they pierced through walls you didn't even know existed.
I saw a vision of Joseph in his room, gaming distant, depressed. But behind him, a golden wall of light. My prayers had formed it. My fasting had fortified it. He didn't even know, but Jesus did.
This is why I brought you here, to show you the war you were already fighting, and the victory you helped unlock.
I wept, but not in sadness. I wept in reverence, because now I knew fasting is not a diet, not a religious checklist. It's a divine weapon, forged in humility, empowered by love, and aimed by heaven itself. And the world has no idea what it can do. I was still staring at my golden thread, my fast. It shimmered gently, not as brilliant as some, but steady, alive, connected. Then something shifted. The atmosphere around us dimmed, not in fear, but in warning. Jesus turned to me, His eyes growing serious.
Angelica, there is something else you must see. Not all fasting carries the same power.
The radiant threads I had admired earlier began to fade into the background, and in their place, new threads emerged. But these weren't golden. They were gray, thin, frayed. Some barely reached beyond the earth's surface. Others were tangled, knotted with dark smoke around them. I watched in confusion. These are fasts too, I asked.
Yes, these are fasts done with wrong motives, religious duty, pride, attention, or manipulation.
He reached out and touched one. It trembled, but didn't rise. It stayed stuck, disconnected.
This one is from a pastor who announced his fast online every day but never truly sought me in secret. He fasted for applause, not transformation.
Then I saw another, a man fasting in anger, trying to force God to change a situation. His mouth said prayers, but his heart was full of bitterness.
Fasting is not a hunger strike. It is not manipulation. It is surrender.
The word struck me deeply, because I had done this, so many of us had. We fasted to be noticed, to be admired, to demand answers. And in doing so, we missed the very heart of it.
I do not reject fasting, but I do reject pride. I do not respond to showmanship. I respond to brokenness, to honesty.
Then he showed me a woman, elegant, well-dressed, filming herself praying with hashtags about 21-day breakthrough fasting. But behind her smile was jealousy, comparison, judgment. Her thread didn't shine. It curled back toward her, a closed circuit.
When fasting becomes a performance, the heavens go silent, because heaven only moves where truth lives.
I felt pain in my chest, not judgment, conviction. And I knew this message wasn't just for individuals. It was for the whole church. Suddenly I saw buildings, churches, mega churches, small house churches. Many had people fasting, but their threads were weak. Some fasted because it was part of their calendar. Others to gain blessings, to claim miracles, but not to truly encounter God.
So many in my church have forgotten why they fast. They want power, but they won't let me purify them first. They want miracles, but avoid repentance.
I saw threads snap not because God was cruel, but because the heart behind them had grown cold. Then Jesus took my hand. His grip was strong but gentle.
I desire fasting that comes from love, from longing, from a heart that says, Lord, I need you more than I need comfort.
A vision flashed a young woman alone in her bedroom, skipping her only meal that day. She didn't post it. She didn't tell anyone. She just sat on the floor and whispered, Jesus, I don't know what to do, but I want you. Her thread lit up. It reached heaven in seconds. Like a beam, a connection.
That is the kind of fast that moves heaven.
I realized something profound in that moment. It's not the length of the fast, not the number of days, not the way you do it. It's the heart behind it.
Return to me with all your heart, not just your stomach, and you will see things you never imagined.
I wept, not out of shame, but out of awakening. So many times, we chase formulas. We think skipping food makes us holy. But the real fast, the one that tears open heaven, is the one that empties us of pride and fills us with hunger for God.
Tell them, Angelica. Tell my people. I'm not calling them to perform. I'm calling them to return.
After the vision of false fasting faded, the air around us began to change. The peaceful glow dimmed, not into darkness, but into something weightier, something urgent, something holy. Jesus looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw fire. Not anger, but purpose, authority.
Now, Angelica, I will show you what true fasting does, not in theory, but in battle.
With a wave of his hand, the scenery shifted. Gone was the peaceful light. We now stood on the edge of a vast battleground. But this was no earthly war. There were no tanks, no guns, no soldiers in uniform. But there was war, and it was fierce. Across the battlefield, I saw two armies. On one side, the people of God, men and women, teenagers, even children. People from all nations and languages. They weren't holding flags. They weren't screaming. They were kneeling, praying, worshiping, fasting. Their eyes were closed, but in the spirit they were wide awake. I looked closer and gasped. They were wearing armor, not made of metal, but of light. Chest plates inscribed with the word righteousness. Belts marked truth. Helmets glowing with hope and salvation, and in their hands, weapons. Some held flaming swords. Others had shields engraved with scripture. They didn't look like warriors, but in the spirit, they were champions.
These are the ones who have fasted in secret, prayed when no one was watching, and sacrificed without applause. Their weapons are not carnal, but powerful in me.
Then I turned. Across the field came the enemy, and a twisted army, not flesh and blood, but made of fear, bitterness, greed, lust, lies, addiction. Dark spirits hovering like smoke with claws of deception and voices like poison. They laughed, mocked, spoke lies over entire cities.
This is the army of darkness, and they are bold, because much of my church has forgotten how to fight.
Suddenly the enemy attacked, and the battle began. But not with shouting, not with chaos, with prayer, with fasting, with quiet, steady worship that exploded like thunder in the spirit. I saw a young man fasting alone in his bedroom lift his voice and whisper, Jesus, help us. That whisper turned into a wave of fire. It knocked back demonic forces trying to enter his family's home. A mother in Mindoro on day 7 of her fast was praying for her husband's salvation. Her shield blocked arrows of despair that were flying toward her children. An old pastor in Davao, too weak to stand, was lying in bed fasting and praying. His sword struck through layers of darkness over his town.
Fasting sharpens the sword. It multiplies the strength behind the prayer. It opens heavenly authority to those willing to lay down earthly comfort.
I saw a teenager, barely 16, praying with his Bible open. No lights, no worship team, just hunger for God. When he spoke, his words became flaming arrows targeting specific demons attacking his classmates. Then I saw the contrast. Believers who weren't fasting, who lived casually, they were present, but their armor was thin. Their weapons slipped from their hands. Their prayers bounced off the darkness like paper against stone.
Many of my children speak my name but carry no weight, because they have not been trained in sacrifice. They have no oil, no fire.
I swallowed hard. This wasn't just poetic, it was real. The spiritual realm was shaped by what we did in private, by how we fasted, by how we prayed when no one was looking. Then Jesus pointed at one figure, a woman clothed in shining armor. She stood firm, holding a sword of fire.
That is a grandmother in Iloilo. She fasts every Monday for her grandchildren and her barangay. She has no title, no stage, but in the spirit, she is a general.
Demons fled at her words, not because she shouted, but because she carried weight.
When you fast in humility, you rise in authority. Fasting doesn't earn your power, it prepares you to carry mine.
I wanted to fall on my face again. The church had been sleeping. We traded fasting for comfort, sacrifice for convenience, spiritual warfare for entertainment. But here in this realm, those who fasted ruled the battlefield. In their names, they weren't known by millions, but they were known in heaven and feared in hell. The battlefield faded, but its power remained in me. I could still hear the clash of spirit and darkness, still feel the weight of those prayers, the authority of surrendered lives, the fire of true fasting. Jesus looked at me again, his eyes soft, now full of deep compassion.
There is something else I must show you, Angelica. You've seen the armor, you've seen the war. Now, see the chains.
The world around us changed once more. This time we stood in what looked like a massive open field. But everywhere I turned, I saw people. Some were standing, some were kneeling, some were lying on the ground motionless. But all of them were bound. Chains wrapped around their ankles, their wrists. Some had shackles around their minds, others their hearts. I stepped forward slowly. A young man sat in the corner, eyes vacant, phone in hand, scrolling endlessly through images. Chains wrapped around his arms like digital cords.
Addiction to distraction. This one has lost his hunger for me because he's full of noise.
I moved further. A mother knelt by a grave. Her hands shook. Grief had become her prison.
This one blames herself. She thinks I could never heal her again, but I've never stopped loving her.
Then I saw a group of young women laughing together, but their laughter echoed hollow. Around their feet, shackles of insecurity, comparison, and rejection.
They measure their worth by the number of hearts on a screen, but not by the love I already poured out at the cross.
And then, my heart stopped. In the center of the field was Joseph, my brother, my only sibling. He was sitting on the floor, head between his knees. Chains bound his chest like iron bars around his lungs. He couldn't breathe. I ran to him. "Joseph," I cried, but he didn't look up. He couldn't hear me. The chains were spiritual. They weren't visible to the world, but here they were suffocating him.
These are chains of despair, of spiritual inheritance, left unbroken for generations.
Tears flooded my face. "Is there no way to free him?" I asked. "My fasting, did it do anything?" Jesus walked beside me. He lifted his hand, and suddenly I saw it. A thin light, a golden thread, was wrapped around one of Joseph's chains. And with each day I had fasted, that thread tightened, glowed brighter, pulled, and the chain began to crack. Not all at once, but slowly, surely.
You thought your fasting was small, but in the spirit, it was a hammer. Each day you denied yourself, you struck these chains.
Another vision opened. I saw my prayers rising like arrows, each one flying toward Joseph, piercing the darkness that clouded his room.
Fasting doesn't force my hand. It aligns yours with mine. It clears the fog so my voice can reach the ones you love.
I saw angels moving, released by obedience. They weren't sent by demand, but by divine partnership. Jesus turned to me again.
When you fast with pure motives, You partner with my ongoing intercession. I am always praying. But when you fast, you join me, and together we break chains no man can see.
My knees gave out. I collapsed on the ground, weeping not in sorrow, but in holy gratitude. All this time, I had been trying to fight in the flesh, but the real war was spiritual.
And you, Angelica, you didn't fight alone.
I looked up, and behind Jesus, I saw it. A cross, not bloody, but glowing, eternal.
My finished work gave you access, but fasting aligns your heart with that victory.
He lifted his hand again. Chains around people began to break one after another. I saw a teenage girl free herself from pornography, a man from alcoholism, a pastor from secret shame. Every breakthrough was birthed from hidden obedience, from fasting, from surrender. And Joseph, I watched as the final chain around his chest shattered. Light filled his lungs. He stood, his eyes opened. He breathed, and I wept, because I knew my brother was coming back, not just to life, but to purpose, to God.
Tell them, Angelica, their fast is not in vain. It is not wasted. Even when they see no change, I am moving. Fasting may not always bring immediate answers, but it always brings eternal impact.
I stood again, heart pounding. I believed, and now I understood. The vision of Joseph faded, but something deep inside me had permanently changed. My tears were no longer for pain, but for purpose. Jesus looked at me again. His expression was calm, but his presence grew heavy, as if heaven itself was leaning in. I knew what he was about to say wasn't just for me. It was for the church, for the Philippines, for this generation.
Angelica, what you've seen is only the beginning. The days ahead will not be easy.
The realm shifted. Suddenly I saw images moving quickly like glimpses of a future that was already beginning. Storms over cities, young people crying in silence, churches with lights and music but no presence, no fire, no conviction.
Many will fall away, many will chase crowds, but not carry my spirit.
I saw a generation addicted to entertainment. Phones in their hands, noise in their ears, but hearts completely numb. I saw families in the same house, but no one speaking. Only screens, only silence. I saw believers posting verses online, but never kneeling in secret.
The enemy has silenced my people with comfort, but I am calling them back through fasting.
Then I saw it, the golden threads again. But now they were weaving together, forming nets of light, covering barangays, covering islands, covering nations. I saw fathers leading families in midnight prayer, teenagers laying down gadgets to seek God for real, entire churches canceling events just to humble themselves before the Lord. And as they did, darkness backed away.
Revival will not come through hype. It will come through hunger. Not excitement, but brokenness. Not crowds, but consecration.
The vision shifted again. I saw the ground break open, but instead of destruction, wells of living water erupted. Ancient wells, generational prayers that had been buried for decades. Prayers of Filipino mothers, grandfathers, pastors who had long gone home, now bursting open.
Fasting restores what religion buries. It clears the debris. And when my people make room, my spirit will pour out again.
Jesus stepped closer. I felt his heart, his passion, his urgency, and I knew this was for the Philippines.
Your nation has been chosen, but it must choose me again. If my people Filipinos from every island will fast, pray, and turn their hearts back to me, I will heal their land.
I looked up, the sky above the islands opened, and I saw it waves of revival. Not from celebrity preachers, not from famous churches, from small homes, rice fields, mountain villages, public schools, police stations, even prison cells. One by one, they lit up. I saw a fisherman in Palawan crying over his Bible, a student in Quezon fasting lunch every Thursday, a single mother in Bohol praying through the night, and their sacrifice was shaking hell itself.
The days of lukewarm faith are over. The storm ahead will shake everything. Only those who have learned to fast, to die to themselves, will stand.
He paused, his voice softened, but his words carried eternal weight.
I am not calling them to fast to earn my love. They already have it. I'm calling them to fast, so I can trust them with my power.
Suddenly, I saw lamps, hundreds of them, thousands. Each lamp represented a believer. Some were full of oil, others were completely dry.
Fasting stores oil. It is how you prepare for the midnight hour.
And then I understood. This wasn't just about self-denial, it was about alignment, preparation, intimacy.
Tell them, Angelica, my church must wake up, not with noise, but with fasting, with stillness, with surrender.
He looked at me with fierce love. His final words burned into my soul.
Fasting is not the price of my affection. You already have my heart, but it is the price of carrying my glory, and I'm ready to pour it out on those who will make room for me.
I fell to my knees, again, not from fear, but from holy fire, because I knew I had been sent back with a message not for the curious, but for the hungry. I opened my eyes, and I was back in my body, back in the hospital bed. The room was spinning, nurses were rushing in, machines were beeping, but I felt peace, a supernatural stillness. They said I had flatlined for over 17 minutes, but there was no brain damage, no permanent injury. They called it a miracle, and they were right. But the miracle wasn't just that I came back, it was what I came back with. 3 months later, it happened again. A second death. This time during a quiet fast in my room, 7 days of prayer, silence, and surrender. My heart stopped. Doctors said I was gone for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. But in the spirit, Jesus met me again. His smile was familiar, his presence overwhelming. But this time, he didn't take me to see the threads, or the battlefield, or the chains. He showed me you. I saw the people who would hear this story. People across nations, in cities and provinces, men, women, young people, hearts ready to respond, hearts like yours. And I saw it, a new wave of golden threads beginning to rise. Because of this very moment, because someone would listen and not just feel convicted, but act.
What I showed you wasn't just for you, Angelica. It's for my beloved bride. It's for those I'm calling deeper.
I saw people putting down their phones and picking up their Bibles. I saw families fasting together. I saw teenagers choosing 1 day a week to give up food and seek God. And I saw the ripples, addictions broken, relationships restored, chains shattered, revival ignited. Not because of a famous preacher, not because of a viral event, but because ordinary people chose to fast in obedience and partner with Jesus himself.
Tell them again. Tell them with the authority of one who has seen the fruit. Fasting is not a religious duty. It is the womb of revival.
So I'm telling you now, whoever you are, wherever you are, Jesus is calling you. Not to earn his love, you already have it. He's calling you to make room, to fast, to seek, to align. Because in the days ahead, this will not just be good advice. It will be essential. If this message stirred something in you, if your heart is burning, if you know God is calling you deeper, leave a comment. I will fast for my family. I will fast for my city. I will fast for his glory. Subscribe to this channel for more stories that awaken, convict, and transform. You're not alone in this battle. We are rising together. Share this video with someone you love, someone who needs breakthrough, someone who needs to know. Fasting is not about pain. It's about partnership with heaven. And remember,
the darkness is increasing, but those who fast with me will shine brighter still.
This is Angelica Ramos, and this is my testimony, not just about dying and returning, but about fasting and discovering what it really means to live.